Jimmy G is not coming to Houston, and the majority of the city seems very happy with that. I don't want to say all of the city, but the majority of the city seems to be very, very pleased with the news that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to Las Vegas, and most importantly, he won't be a member of the Houston Texans. What does it mean for the Texans? Did the Texans dodge a bullet? And what's next for the Texans as free agency begins? It is the Locker Room, number one source for daily Texans digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 610, 10 to 2 Central, that is, the official home of the Houston Texans. We talk to the players, we talk to the owners, we keep you connected, and we give you all the reaction and news when it comes to the Houston Texans. Biggest news today, Jimmy Garoppolo signs with Las Vegas. At the price that Jimmy Garoppolo signed, there's no way in hell that it would have made sense for the Texans to sign Jimmy Garoppolo. Even people that were on board with the Jimmy Garoppolo plan and the potential of not drafting a quarterback number 2 overall because you didn't think that their guy was going to be there. I don't think anyone thought that Jimmy Garoppolo was anything more than a 1-year commitment. And quite frankly, I don't know, like, who are the Raiders really competing with when it came to this deal? Did they just want to make it 100% certainty that he was going to be there? Like, I don't see how anyone else in the NFL, maybe you can tell me someone, you can put it in the comments, subscribe, like, all that. No one else in the NFL was giving Jimmy Garoppolo 3 years, $67.5 million, $34 million guaranteed. And if the Texans had done that, then Nick Caserio, D'Amico Ryans would be getting jumped on like a trampoline right now. For sure in here and for sure out there in the Texan streets. Jimmy Garoppolo is a 1-year stopgap guy. He was potentially a guy that maybe holds it down for the quarterback a few games in that you draft, or he holds it down for a year and then he goes back on the market. And we're asking the same question about Jimmy Garoppolo every year. 3 years, $67.5 million, $34 million guaranteed. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Before it even went down, I was texting my boy, Q Myers, who's the host up there at ESPN in Las Vegas, one of the most prominent voices when it comes to Raiders media. And I was just asking him, I said, Q, are y'all going to take Jimmy Garoppolo? He said, nah, y'all need to take him. And I said, nah, you take him. He said, yeah, nah, y'all take him. He said nobody in Las Vegas wanted Jimmy Garoppolo. No Raiders fan wanted Jimmy Garoppolo, which is the exact same way that Texans fans felt, especially at this price. That was when we thought maybe it was going to be a 1-year deal. 3 years, $67.5 million. I almost want to tune in to hear what they're saying in Las Vegas, because that would have been an absolute nightmare for all parties involved. 3 years, $67 million for Jimmy Garoppolo, no. And that puts the Garoppolo rumors to rest. Texans also signed a backup quarterback today in Case Keenum. If I had a penny for every time someone told me that the Texans should sign Case Keenum, he's an absolute god here. He's a legend here for what he did at U of H. A lot of people like the way when he was here, he finished the season with the Texans. If I had a penny for every time Case Keenum was mentioned on the text line, on Twitter, or anything like that, I would be able to buy a really nice steak dinner. Not even a saltgrass steak dinner. I would be able to buy a $50 steak, $15 side item, and a nice appetizer, at least $100. That's how popular Case Keenum is here. Now, what's he going to be? He's probably just going to be a valued backup. What does that mean for Davis Mills? That's another question that we'll have to get into. Are we looking at the beginning of the end for Davis Mills? Could the Texans maybe carry 3 quarterbacks? I think that's something to keep an eye on. But between the Jimmy G not coming and the Case Keenum news, it seemed like it was a pretty exciting day for Texans fans. Now, what does the Jimmy G signing mean for the Texans? It means, and this was probably going to be the case maybe if they'd signed Jimmy Garoppolo, not if they'd signed him for this deal, but even Jimmy Garoppolo on a 1-year deal or whatever, something like that, you think that the Texans were going to take a quarterback at 2. This news here, I think this solidifies that the Texans are going to be taking a quarterback at number 2. Now, is it going to be Bryce Young? Is it going to be C.J. Stroud? C.J. Stroud was the betting favorite for a while. Now you have a bunch of NFL media types throwing out all kinds of other scenarios. The one thing I don't believe, and the one thing you will never convince me, and I will never believe, is that the Carolina Panthers don't know what quarterback they're going to take. You don't trade that much without knowing who you're going to take. You don't trade up just for the right to evaluate 4 guys. Nobody does that. And any front office who does that, they all need to be fired. Carolina might want you to believe that, but they like somebody. Now, is it C.J. Stroud, the betting favorite? Is it Bryce Young? Who knows? But they know who they like, and it seems to be C.J. Stroud. Now, maybe they were leaking out the C.J. Stroud stuff before because they were trying to put out some smoke screen, and then the betting odds when they traded up went where they went because of that. Who knows? But they know who they want in Carolina. And I think the Texans know who they want too. And maybe the reason these trade rumors are still going out is because Carolina likes someone different than the Texans. On this show, Bryce Young. That is who I want the Texans to get as their quarterback. And I'm hoping that that's the direction they go. And with the Jimmy G news, you got to think the Texans are leaning towards the quarterback if they weren't already. And if they aren't, then who knows what the reaction is going to be? Are we going to be talking about a Davis Mills, Case Keenum quarterback competition? Very doubtful. But the Texans dodge a bullet here. 3 years, $67 million. Not a good deal. Jimmy Garoppolo goes to the Raiders. Is Josh McDaniels' status and future as the Raiders coach tied to Jimmy Garoppolo now? You go from Derek Carr to Jimmy Garoppolo? It's one thing to go from Davis Mills to Jimmy Garoppolo. That's an upgrade. But you're going from Derek Carr to Jimmy G? Maybe it's a system thing. Maybe Derek Carr just doesn't fit into that system, but it doesn't seem ideal, especially given the injury history for Jimmy G. But good news in Houston, no Jimmy Garoppolo. Bryce Young, hopefully come on down, and business is picking up. One of the best days of the NFL season, the legal tampering period. We got a lot of news to get into. Texans also signed Andrew Beck, fullback / tight end, who can do a lot of things, very versatile in the trenches at fullback and tight end. I'm very, very interested to see how Bobby Slowick works with him. Also got added some bodies on the D-line and at running back. And we'll get into that a little bit later on when we have the live stream. But the Jimmy Garoppolo news is the biggest news. And if you're a Texans fan and you didn't believe Jimmy Garoppolo was worth a 2 or 3 year commitment, then you believe the Texans dodged a bullet. Subscribe, like, ride along. Check me out 10 to 2 Central on Sports Radio 610 in the Odyssey app. We'll give you the latest and greatest. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming down, so we got you covered here inside the locker room. No matter what happens though with this Texans thing, remember, we are all in this together. Have a good one.